They told her it was just another gig, pretend to cry, collect her pay, and leave. But the moment she leaned over the coffin and saw his eye twitch, she knew this wasn't a funeral, it was a trap. Simi was a young woman trying to survive in the busy streets of Oberland. Life wasn't easy for her. She was a theatre student with big dreams, but no money. To pay her bills and feed herself, she took any job she could find, from washing clothes to acting in small plays. But the strangest job she ever did was crying at funerals. Yes, people actually paid her to show up, cry loudly, and pretend to be heartbroken. Simi was so good at it that her name started going around. People said, "If you want real tears at your loved one's funeral, call that Simi girl." One hot morning, Simi got a call from a rich woman. She said her husband, Chief Ibuka, a very wealthy and powerful businessman, had died, and she needed people to make the funeral emotional and loud, especially someone who could cry like they had lost everything. Simi didn't ask too many questions. It was just another job to her, and she needed the money badly. They promised to pay her well, even more than usual, and gave her the address to a grand mansion outside the city. On the day of the funeral, Simi dressed in black, tied her head with a scarf, and practiced her crying voice as she walked toward the house. It looked like a palace. Security men stood at the gate, and expensive cars filled the driveway. She took a deep breath and told herself, "Just cry, collect your money and go." But deep down, something felt strange. She didn't know it yet, but this job was going to change her life forever. What she thought was just a normal funeral would soon turn into the most shocking day she had ever lived. As Simi walked into the grand estate where the funeral was being held, she couldn't believe her eyes. The place was massive, like something from a movie. Tall gates, shiny cars, and guards everywhere. The house looked like a palace. But even with all the beauty around, something didn't feel right. The air was heavy, like something was off. People were dressed in black, standing in small groups, whispering. But it wasn't the usual sadness of a funeral. It felt more like fear. Simi walked slowly toward the main area, where the casket was placed in the middle of a large decorated hall. There were flowers, candles, and big pictures of Chief Ibuka smiling in his fine suits. But the energy in the room was strange. The widow, Madame Amaka, was sitting in front, dressed in a black lace gown with dark sunglasses. But she wasn't crying. She wasn't even looking at the casket. Her face was stiff, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Simi watched her closely. This woman didn't look like someone who had just lost a husband. Then there was the son, a tall, sharp-looking young man named Toby. He kept walking back and forth, glancing at his watch every few minutes. He didn't speak to anyone. He looked angry, or maybe nervous. Something about him made Simi's stomach twist. As she moved through the crowd to find her place, Simi noticed an old woman sitting alone near the back. She was dressed in old, faded clothes, her eyes shut tight. Her lips moved non-stop, like she was praying, but not the kind of calm prayer you say at funerals. Her voice was shaking, her hands trembled. She kept saying things like, "God, let the truth not kill us today, and blood must not cry out today." Simi's heart began to race. This didn't feel like a normal funeral. The family didn't look sad. They looked scared, worried, or maybe even guilty. Something was definitely wrong in this house. Simi told herself again to just do her job and leave, but her eyes kept going back to that closed casket. Something was not right, and she could feel it deep in her bones. Simi took her place near the casket with the other hired mourners. The air was thick with heat and silence, and the smell of heavy perfume mixed with candle wax filled her nose. As the guests sat and the pastor began to speak, Simi knew it was her moment to perform. She slowly knelt beside the casket, letting out soft cries. Then, as she'd practiced so many times before, she let her voice rise, wailing like someone who had just lost a father. People in the crowd started nodding in sympathy, some wiping their eyes. Simi was good at this. Too good. She even made herself cry real tears. But then something strange happened. As she leaned closer to the casket, pretending to whisper a goodbye to the dead man, she noticed something odd, very odd. Chief Ibuka's face was so still, so lifeless, just like a corpse should be. But then, from the corner of her eye, she saw a slight movement. She blinked. Maybe it was just her imagination. Maybe the lights were playing tricks. But no, it happened again. His eyelid moved, just a tiny twitch, but it was enough to freeze Simi in place. Her breath caught in her throat. She didn't move. She didn't cry. She didn't even blink. She stared harder. And that's when it happened. The second eye moved, slowly, almost like someone trying to peek through a crack. It opened just a little, then closed again. Simi's blood went cold. Her hands began to shake. Was this a ghost? Was she seeing things? No. She knew what she saw. Chief Ebuka wasn't dead. She quickly wiped her tears and stood up slowly, careful not to make a scene. She didn't want to draw attention. If he was alive, then something was very wrong. Why was he in a casket? Why were they pretending he was dead? And why did she feel like she was now part of something dangerous? Simi quietly stepped back into the crowd, her heart pounding. Her crying had stopped completely. She tried to stay calm, but every second felt like a ticking clock. She had come here to pretend to cry. Now she was struggling not to scream. Something evil was happening, and she had just seen the proof with her own eyes. Simi's heart was racing as she walked away from the casket. She couldn't believe what she had just seen. Chief Ebuka moved his eye. She tried to act normal, but panic was building inside her. She needed to tell someone, anyone. Quietly, she walked toward a man in a black suit who looked like a staff member. She gently pulled his sleeve and whispered, "Sir, something is wrong. Chief Ebuka, he's not dead." The man looked at her with cold eyes. "Stay in line," he said sharply. Simi was confused. She thought maybe he didn't hear her properly. "Please, I'm serious," she said again, more urgently. But before she could say another word, a loud voice echoed across the compound. "Close the gates!" Big metal gates at the entrance of the mansion slammed shut. 2 security men locked them with thick chains. Simi froze. Why were they locking the gates? It was just a funeral, wasn't it? People were supposed to come and go freely. Now, no one could leave. Simi's hands started to shake again. The head of security, a tall man with a scar on his face, stepped forward. "No one leaves until the burial is complete," he said loudly, his voice firm and final. Simi tried to ask why, but he cut her off. "This is a private ceremony. Everyone must stay in place. Any disturbance will not be tolerated." That was when Simi knew something was very wrong. Very, very wrong. She looked around and saw other guests chatting quietly, some sipping drinks, others praying, but nobody else seemed to notice anything strange. Why was she the only one who saw Chief Ebuka's eye move? Or were they all pretending too? She thought of running, but the guards looked dangerous. She thought of screaming, but who would believe her? She was just a hired mourner, a nobody. Her thoughts kept racing. What if this was not a real funeral? What if this was a cover for something else? Maybe Chief Ebuka wasn't supposed to die. Maybe someone tried to kill him and failed. Or maybe he faked his death for a reason. But why? Simi now felt like she was not just a mourner. She was inside a trap, a funeral full of secrets. And now there was no way out. Simi couldn't sit still. Her body was present at the funeral, but her mind was running wild. She had seen the dead man move. The gates were locked. The security men looked like they were guarding a crime scene, not a funeral. She needed a moment to breathe. Quietly, she slipped away from the crowd and entered the powder room, a small, clean bathroom at the side of the mansion. She stood in front of the mirror, splashing water on her face, trying to calm herself down. "What is going on?" she whispered to her reflection. Just then the door opened. It was Amaka, the widow of Chief Ebuka, the woman everyone said was grieving. But she didn't look sad. She looked scared. Amaka didn't speak right away. She locked the door behind her, then slowly walked over to the sink beside Simi. They stood side by side in silence. The only sound in the room was the soft dripping of the tap. Simi glanced at her through the mirror. Their eyes met. Amaka looked exhausted, her makeup slightly smudged, but her eyes were sharp, full of fear and something else Simi couldn't name. Then, without saying a word, Amaka reached into her sleeve and handed Simi a small, folded note. Her fingers trembled slightly. She didn't say anything, just pressed the paper into Simi's hand and turned to leave. Simi waited until the door clicked shut. She opened the note quickly with shaky hands. Her eyes scanned the short message. "He's not dead. He faked it to escape something. Don't trust anyone." Simi's heart nearly stopped. Her mouth opened slightly in shock. She read the note again just to be sure. The words didn't change. The widow knew. She knew he was alive. And even more shocking, she wasn't trying to stop it. She was warning Simi. Why her? Why give her the note? What was Chief Ebuka trying to escape from? Why fake his own death? And what did Amaka mean by, "Don't trust anyone"? Who was dangerous? Was it the guards, the guests, the children? Simi felt like she had stepped into a movie, but this was real life, real danger, real secrets. She stuffed the note into her pocket and walked back to the funeral, pretending everything was normal. But inside, she knew nothing was normal anymore. Simi couldn't think straight. The note from Amaka was still burning in her pocket. He's not dead. The words kept ringing in her head. She knew she had to find help, or at least find out what was really going on. Everyone at the funeral was either acting strange or pretending too well. She needed answers. Quietly, she moved away from the main hall, keeping her head low so no one would notice her slipping through the hallway. As she walked past the dining area, she noticed two maids carrying trays of food, but the food wasn't going to the guests outside. The maids were going the opposite way, toward a door she hadn't seen before. It looked like a storage entrance. Curious and careful, Simi followed them at a safe distance, her heart pounding. The maids opened the door and went down a narrow staircase. Simi waited a few seconds, then tiptoed after them, making sure not to make any noise. The staircase led to a dimly lit basement. The walls were old, the air was cold, and the silence made her skin crawl. At the bottom, she saw a hallway with several small rooms. She peeked around the corner, and what she saw made her freeze. Chief Ibuka, alive. He was sitting in a chair, wrapped in a blanket, connected to machines, wires, a heart monitor, even a drip. His face was pale, but his eyes were open. He didn't look surprised to be alive. He looked like he had been waiting. Right in front of him was a small recorder. He was speaking into it softly, like he was recording a message or confession. Simi gasped quietly and stepped back, her mind spinning. Everything made sense now. The twitching eye, the locked gates, the strange silence from the family. This was no ordinary funeral. It was all a show. Chief Ibuka had faked his death, just like the widow said. But why? What was he hiding from? And what was he recording? Before she could move, one of the maids turned suddenly. Simi ducked behind a shelf, holding her breath. She waited until they left the room, then carefully backed up the stairs and returned to the hallway, her legs shaking. She had seen it with her own eyes. The man, they were all mourning, was alive beneath the house. And now, Simi was part of the secret, a dangerous, powerful secret that could change everything. Simi's heart was racing as she tried to sneak back upstairs, but she wasn't fast enough. A heavy hand grabbed her from behind. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the thick silence of the basement. Two guards dragged her through the hidden hallway and into the secret room where Chief Ibuka sat. He didn't look surprised to see her. In fact, he looked like he had been expecting her. "Bring her here," he said, his voice low but firm. The guards pushed Simi in front of him and left, closing the door. She stood there, scared and confused, unsure of what was about to happen. Chief Ibuka looked at her closely, then gave a tired sigh. "You saw me. You know I'm not dead," he said. "But I didn't plan for you to find out like this." Simi didn't say a word. She was still shaking. He continued, "I faked my death for one reason, to catch the person in my family who wants me dead. Someone in this house is plotting to kill me. I needed to disappear to see who would show their true face." Simi's eyes widened. Everything was starting to make sense. The strange behavior, the locked gates, the whispering widow. Then Chief Ibuka leaned forward and said something that shocked her even more. "You weren't just hired by chance, Simi. Someone sent you here." Simi gasped. "What? No. I was just doing my job. Crying. That's all." He shook his head. "Number? The person who recommended you. I believe they're part of the plot. I've been watching everything. And now that you're involved, I need your help." Simi's legs almost gave out. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had come to cry for a dead man. Now she was standing in front of him, alive, being told that someone might have used her in a deadly family game. Chief Ibuka stared at her. "If I'm right, someone close to me is dangerous. I need someone on the outside, someone they won't suspect. That's you." Simi didn't know what to say. She was scared, confused. But one thing was clear. This was bigger than her, much bigger. And now, she was deep in the middle of a secret that could destroy the whole family. Suddenly, the basement door flew open with a loud bang. Toby, the eldest son, stormed in, eyes wild and filled with anger. In his shaking hand, he held a gun. He pointed it straight at Simi, his voice loud and trembling. "She's a liar! A fraud! She knows too much!" he shouted. She's not just here to cry. She's spying on us. Simi froze. Her hands went up slowly. Her heart was pounding like a drum in her chest. Please, I don't know what you're talking about, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Chief Ibuka looked shocked but stayed calm. Toby, put the gun down, he said firmly. But Toby didn't listen. He stepped closer, still pointing the gun at Simi. You think I don't know what's going on? You faked your death to test us. You brought her here to trick us. But she's not innocent. She's working for someone. Maybe she's even working with the person trying to kill you. Simi's knees were shaking. Tears filled her eyes. I swear I don't know anything. I was just hired to cry, that's all. I needed the money. I didn't know it would turn into this. Chief Ibuka raised his voice. Toby, stop it. I said put the gun down. But the room was full of tension. Toby's hand was still on the trigger. The air felt heavy. Simi's eyes darted between the two men, praying someone would stop this madness. I don't even know who hired me directly, Simi said quickly. I got a call from someone. A woman. She said I was recommended. She paid in cash. I thought it was just another funeral. Chief Ibuka stared at her, trying to read her face. Toby didn't look convinced. The silence was sharp. Then suddenly, another voice called out from the hall. Toby, what are you doing? It was Amaka, the widow. She rushed in, eyes wide at the scene. Put the gun down before you make things worse. But Toby looked confused now, angry, betrayed. The truth was still hiding in the shadows. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about a fake funeral anymore. Secrets were being exposed, and Simi was caught in the middle of a deadly family storm. Just when the room was filled with tension and confusion, the old woman from the crowd, the one who had been quietly muttering prayers the whole time, stepped forward. Everyone's eyes turned to her. She was Chief Ibuka's elder sister, Mama Enkay, known for her sharp mind and strong will. Her voice was calm but firm as she spoke, cutting through the chaos like a knife. I am the one who hired this young woman, she said, looking straight at Simi. But I did not hire her to cry. I hired her to watch, to see what really happens here. The room grew silent, everyone waiting for her to explain. Mama Enkay explained how she had been watching the family for a long time. She saw the tension, the secrets, and the lies. She did not trust anyone, not the widow, not the sons, not even the closest friends. Something was wrong, and she believed someone was trying to hurt her brother. So she came up with a plan. She needed someone outside the family to keep an eye on things without being noticed. Someone who could blend in, watch, and report back to her. Simi was the perfect choice. Her job was not just to cry and look sad, but to observe everything, everyone, and listen carefully. Mama Enkay had sent her with secret instructions to learn who might be planning against Chief Ibuka. She suspected many people, because in families like this, greed and jealousy run deep. I wanted to know the truth, Mama Enkay said, and thanks to Simi's courage and sharp eyes, we are getting closer to finding it. The widow's strange behavior, Toby's nervous pacing, all of it points to something bigger than just a family dispute. Simi felt shocked, but also proud. She wasn't just a hired mourner anymore. She was part of a bigger story, a dangerous but important one. Mama Enkay's plan had worked. The truth was starting to come out. Everyone in the room looked at Simi differently now, with respect and curiosity. She had not only survived a terrifying situation, but had also helped uncover secrets hidden in the shadows of the grand estate. The family drama was far from over, but now the real game had begun, and Simi was right in the middle of it all. After everything that happened, Chief Ibuka was deeply grateful to Simi. Her bravery and sharp instincts had saved him and exposed the family's dark secrets. He saw in her not just a hired mourner, but someone with real talent and a strong heart. So, he offered her a special job. To manage a new drama foundation he wanted to start for underprivileged youth. He believed Simi's experience and passion could help many young people find their own voice through acting and storytelling. Simi accepted the offer, feeling a new sense of hope and purpose. She worked hard, pouring her energy into the foundation. Over time, she grew confident and successful. She was no longer just a struggling theatre student. She was a leader, inspiring others with her story and strength. During this time, Simi and Chief Ibuka spent a lot of time together. What started as respect and gratitude slowly grew into something deeper, a bond built on trust and kindness. Chief Ebuka saw in Simi not only a helper, but someone he wanted by his side for life. Years passed, and the drama foundation flourished. On a beautiful sunny day, Simi walked down the aisle, but this time, it wasn't as a hired actress or mourner. She was the bride, truly loved, truly happy. The man waiting for her at the altar was Chief Ebuka, the man she once mourned, now her partner and soulmate. The wedding was full of joy and celebration, a symbol of new beginnings. Simi had gone from a struggling girl hired to cry at a fake funeral to a strong woman embraced by love and success. Her journey proved that courage, honesty, and kindness could change even the darkest moments into something beautiful and real.